Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting to the tail end of the business and things are heating up indeed. This is now the recap video of round 10, and this was actually a very difficult choice to make because in terms of excitement and richness or wealth of ideas and possibilities in a game, I definitely should have gone for the Rapport Ding encounter, which was just a tremendous fight for sure. However, as far as the outcome of the tournament is concerned, Hikaru against Alireza was definitely the pick of the litter, and that's what I'm going to go with. First and foremost, Hikaru is now doing really well, and of course, it looks like no one is going to catch now Nepo, which is going to raise a lot of questions, because if Magnus decides not to play, which is highly likely, with the outcome of Nepo winning, then a lot of questions are in the air. Now, a reasonably reliable source tells me that if Carlsen decides not to play the World Championship match, the title by default goes to the challenger, and therefore Nepo becomes world champion. And that means that my initial excitement about let's see who comes second, because then there will be a Nepo versus whoever comes second match, is super exciting. That idea is right away irrelevant. Nonetheless, this game was definitely an interesting one. So let's have a look at it. And of course, Alireza's games are always exciting because of what Carlsen said about him, wanting to play or wanting to defend his title against Alireza only. Yeah, I don't know whether that did any good to Alireza or not. We will see, I suppose. So the opening was actually a knight off again, which was a very bold choice by Alireza, who already lost the game to Nepo in this very opening. And he went for e5. And here I think Hikaru made again an incredibly clever choice. Brilliant concept. He played knight f3, which is by no means the best move here. In fact, it's one of the driest, dullest possible position. But if Firouzja wanted to play for anything else but a draw, meaning he wanted to win, he needed to sharpen the position up, which is, by the way, the main reason why he decided to stick with his original guns and played the knight off. However, to breathe any life into this knight f3 variation with black means taking immense, absolutely immense risks, right? And so the problem here is that we have a very static position, and white, instead of playing knight b3 and follow it with the usual English attack, just goes like, nah, I will just go hardcore on the d5 square. I'm going to try my very best to blockade it, trade everything off that hits the d5 square, and good luck, Chuck, if you want to, get any kind of meaningful dynamic position going on there. So yeah, knight e6 was already a strange choice, but of course we are heavily into theory here, so I'm not going to criticize that. Bishop e6 and knight d5. Once again, not the best move by the engine's measure, who likes queen e2. Bishop b3 is also logical, but again, the message that this move sends is really powerful. I'm gonna play for a very dry and dull, tiny positional edge, which should be a draw if you play best. And that's as good as it gets for you, brother, behind the black pieces. Now, nothing is more depressing than that when you're desperate for a win. Rook c8, knight takes f6, and this was the time of truth when Alireza, in my opinion, lost a little bit of sense with reality, and he made a very sus decision here by retaking with the pawn. Now, doubling your pawns like that and retaking with a pawn instead of a queen in these structures is perfectly stock standard. In fact, the only way to spice up the position, because what this allows in these Sveshnikov structures is that it allows black to play for an f5 break, and it also allows black to generate play along the g file. However, the downsides here outweigh the benefits, because neither of these plans are going to be meaningful enough to compensate for the structural deficiencies, in particular the weaknesses of on the dark squares. So bishop b3 was played, knight e7, and that was the second move back to back where things are going real pear-shaped. And again, it's a logical move supporting both d5 and f5. But actually, rook g8, g3, and queen d7 was pretty much the best way according to the engine to play it. And indeed, this looks like black still has some f5 ideas. Knight a5, knight c4 can be a plan. There is still a little bit of life in this position, but after knight e7 castles, I just really didn't like this for Alireza at all. And from here on out, we are in a rock solid downhill. And I wouldn't say that for the first time in this tournament, because that's certainly not the case, but you can see that actually the win is achieved not by playing genius moves, but by choosing the right strategy, the right plan, the right opening. And Hikaru is just sitting on a slightly better position with white, and Alireza actually though is the one doing the destruction. And it's self-destruction. Take, and d5 enters straight away. Like, this is a typical position that on top level chess, and I don't even mean very top, I mean 2600 GM and above, no one would be willing to enter with black because it's hopeless. Like, you are well and truly playing for 2 results. There is absolutely zero chance you can win this. And even the drawing chances here compared to, for example, the nowadays routine Petrov or, you know, Berlin, or call it whatever, Spanish, or even the Italian, here are really, really meager. I really dislike this position, but on the flip side, the way how Hikaru plays this from here on out is absolutely textbook. Queen e2, knight f5, rook d1. Now, this is a really instructive move for lower level players and club players who would be like, surely rook a d1, right? No. F d1, and the reason for that is because after rook f d1, the rook on the a file still has a potential to join the fray along the 4th rank. It also denies black from playing b5 on the odd day, even on the 5th rank, but that's unlikely. But it's far more likely that the rook will be meaningful on the a file than it would be on the f file. Hence the choice rook f d1 here, a bit of an exception to the rule. Well done, Hikaru. c4, securing the d5 square. Bishop g7. Black's position is just ugly as sin. The double pawns are real bad now. The f5 square is, you know, the knight is sitting on it instead of allowing the pawns to progress. The bishop is bad. d5 square is ours. Overall, it is just miserable. Rook d1. And this is the other part, by the way, that you really rarely get to see on very top level chess, is that not only is Alireza's position really unattractive here, but what makes this position really, really unpleasant is the fact that it's super easy to play for white. And this is something that I tell my students a lot, by the way, too, that if I look at this position and, you know, they play something slightly weird, I'm like, doubling up the rook looks like no-brainer, right? And when that is such a no-brainer, it's a no-brainer on any level. It's rook d5 is best on 1700 and 2800. There is no difference there. And so one needs to appreciate those moments when your position is positionally so attractive and so good that obvious looking moves are definitely the best irrespective of level. And this is very rare, extremely rare on top level chess, that 2 almost equally matched players in terms of rating end up in a position where one can very clearly play super easy, super logical moves to increase the advantage, and the other one is just sitting there struggling. Usually it's more dynamic. Like, they tend to be far better prepared in terms of opening prep than to allow themselves to land in an absolute utter misery like this one is for black. And Hikaru is just playing simple chess. It really is just simple chess. H3 was unnecessary here. He could have already gone for this decisive plan. Bishop c5 followed by queen c2 or queen e4, which we are going to see in the game. H3 b5, and here again bishop c5 was extremely powerful. The idea is that after, let's say, just I want to demonstrate this with a pass move, you hit the knight and it has nowhere to go. No. If I go back to e7, then bishop to 8 followed by rook d8 or even knight h4, knight f5 are equally deadly. Actually, knight h4, knight f5 is the ultimate good knight, bad bishop, absolutely killing it. And if queen e6, then we go g4. And after knight d4, various ways to get ahead. The cleanest is just to take, and white is a pawn to the good. Still a fair bit of work to do, but it's a definitely winning position, no questions. Instead, Hikaru played c5 here. This was a little bit less accurate, but it didn't really mean too much as far as the outcome. Although the engine claims that after a5, it's only it's below +1, which it hasn't been for a while. So yeah. Bishop f8, however, allowed b4, and now it is one-way traffic. Knight d4, and this is where we can turn on the style with white. Take with the knight, allowing the rook on d5 to go and acquire that beautiful f5 square. That knight is worth way more than a rook could ever be worth in this structure. Queen e4, queen h5, and now the king side. And the king itself is too weak, and this is decisive. Rook d8, rook a1, a cheeky sidestep. We say no to the trade, which would allow black counterplay. We also are eyeing with the pawn, and we still haven't given up on activating this rook against the king. You will see how. Rook c6, bishop h6, aiming for some kind of a checkmate attack. King h8, and ta-da! Here comes the genius. A stroke of a genius. The rook still enters the king side attack via a3. This rook lift is always such a good feeling when you get to play up one in a king side attack. And yeah, this was the end of the story. There is nothing to be done against the upcoming attack. If bishop takes h6, we take with the knight, and now knight f7 is unstoppable. So that's completely off the cards. If black plays a pass move, you simply take, and you play here followed by queen h6. Not queen h6 right away, because then rook g8 defends. So the difference is that if you do rook g3 and then rook g8, then now we can take on f7, and after rook takes g3, we have got fg, and amazingly, we can leave the knight on prey, because the f8, queen f8 check is still mate. And now no matter what black does, checkmate is inevitable in the next move. That would have been a beautiful finish. Instead, we saw a slightly less attractive, but nonetheless equally threatening or effective is the word I'm after. Finish after queen b4, take, and queen h6 is just mate no matter what you do. Rook g3, once again the rooks are coming off, and there is nothing left in the tank. A very one-sided game. And I think that this defeat has had a bad negative effect on Alireza's mindset. The reason why I'm saying it is because now it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon where I'm recording this, which means that it's about 6 o'clock in the morning in Madrid where the tournament takes place. And literally an hour ago, Alireza was still playing Hyper Bullet against Naroditsky online at his 5 a.m. So, yeah, I do have my opinion on that, but I don't want to say it in this video because I tend to be a bit too old school about these things, and a lot of people would yell at me. But yeah, that is just sadness. That is just sadness. Let's go with that. Anyway, I hope that Alireza is going to bounce back, but my definition of bouncing back is definitely not that you stay up until, 5 o'clock in the morning and then you rock up for your next game against Nepo. I don't know. Anyway, there are still very interesting games ahead of us. The tournament is not quite over yet, so we can still see interesting chess. Perhaps some changes will still happen on the top, but for the time being, it looks like Nepo is just running away with it like there was no tomorrow. And quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, deservedly so. But 3 more rounds is there to be watched, so let's see what's coming next. That is it for me now. Please don't forget to like, to sub, to comment, and to super like, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.